What's up, everyone? You are tuned in to the channel Eeps, episode 140. I'm your host, EEPMON, because there is none other. And yes, folks, I am still in Japan. In fact, this is my last day before I travel back to Canada. And again, I truly apologize that I have been so late with keeping up with the channel Eeps. I usually do it every day. So this trip has been tremendously productive, so much so that at the end of the day, I'm just so tired and I couldn't fit an episode in. But I promise you, I will continue once I return. That being said, I thought that I would share you some of my thoughts, my own feedback in regards to my travels to Japan. It's been just over a month now. So I thought I'd list out five things. And these five things are: one, behind the scenes of a digital artist on my B2Bs; two, Japanese inspirations in digital art and design. I have plenty to talk about that for sure. Three, insights into B2B art collaborations, kind of like how um, collaborations start to manifest. Four, digital art meets Japanese cultural diplomacy. And five, some of the tips that perhaps I can provide to like-minded creative entrepreneurs, digital content creators, digital artists, etc. So, to begin, my whole premise, let's start with one: behind the scenes of a digital artist on a B2B endeavor. Um, my whole premise behind my travels, of course, is to continue where I left off with the Team Canada trade mission to Japan. And prior to that, as some of you know, I travel to Japan quite often. So it was an opportunity for me to also re-engage with my existing contacts. Now, fortunately, I had the opportunity to follow up with many of my uh, previous B2B communications. And after much, of course, having some great sushi, having great meetings, preparing presentations, uh, I won't say it concretely, but I think that that there is some really great momentum moving forward. And if all the stars align with a lot of the events or upcoming um, uh, Japan specific events that are happening next year, I really think that by timing it right, I think there's going to be something fantastic coming out with my contacts. Now, that being said, as I've said before, a lot of what I observed with people who try to get into or breaking into another creative industry arena, whether it's other country or you know uh, looking for building new opportunities, um, know that the first attempt, unless you are like you strike, you got lightning struck and you got lucky. The first attempt an opportunity never ever happens. The misconception of people who are full of enthusiasm, ecstatic, full of vigor and excitement to really build these great relationships and kick off a great project from the get-go. um, I have to say it, folks, is a bit of a romantic dream, because that usually never happens. I'd say 99% would never happen. The whole point of doing B2Bs for those who don't know means business to business, is really about fostering opportunity, fostering relationships, building face to face connections. As much as even myself, a digital creator living in a digital world, working in a digital capacity, face to face engagement is always prime. It is always the way to engage in establishing any meaningful um, uh, conversations, meaningful next steps. Online is great. It's cute. Okay, I get it. Communicate, do your Zoom calls. But the true measure, I believe, at least my experience, is to follow up, not just by follow up by an email, okay, or a virtual call, is really putting boots on the ground, going to the source and say, hey, I'm here. Let's make some waves. For those who don't understand what I mean by waves, is like I had that epiphany when I was at this like bathhouse onsen. And I was like, whoa, see all these waves that are happening. They're all like overlapping each other. And if I just move a little bit, there's more waves. It's like that. It's like you have to generate those waves. And when you go there, it is much more pronounced when you're there physically versus if I'm sending a little email and seeing that there's an opportunity coming. Folks, show up, bring your commitment, full frontal, authentic self to the table. Creative entrepreneurs, you must do this. And I know that sometimes it could be, maybe if you're not socially able to engage in that capacity, well, that's something that you will have to learn and build that experience. So I'm digressing a little bit because I'm clearly what I'm talking about is touching upon other topics or other key items. But that was really the behind the scenes, really, right? Shaking hands, meeting the prospective client. This is probably the fifth or sixth dinner that we've engaged in. And it's not like because I have to, folks. It's because I want to. And like I mentioned before, the power of art, like I can create art, no problem. Art for me, that's what I love to do, it's my passion. But I believe that like, well, my sort of eureka was like, wow, how cool is it that my artwork has this ability to reach out to new audiences, to new demographics, to new people because of this manifestation of my creative outlet to connect with people. Like that is a very powerful thing. So that's why I want to do it. That's why it's like, of course, let's go. Let's have a dinner. Let's meet. Let's talk. Let's chat. And I am my mindset that, I know that something will happen down the road, but I'm not in the position to be rushing about it. No, you know, we just have to build closer ties. And what better way to do it than what you're passionate about? So that's it. So let's jump to number two. Japanese inspirations in digital art and design. Well, of course, the reason why I come back to is because of the incredible, how do I say, the artisans and the dedication to craft, you know, just the mere thought of every day they're so committed in creating this masterpiece or masterpieces uh, informs me of how, wow, like here I was thinking, oh, like basically this was an inspiration for me to further discipline myself by seeing what these incredible artisans are doing. I'm like, wow, okay, I can learn so much from what they're doing and I can apply it to my own workflow or process. Um, like even when I go to a retail store, a department store, and just looking at the ceramic ware or lacquer ware, and just having an artisan to just demonstrate the creation of a wood block or some sort of like piece, like it's mind-boggling and inspiring to see what others are creating that I would have never have known or have never have access to had I kept being in my corner of the world. That's why traveling is so important for me because it really expands my horizons and my awareness of what is out there. Even the most littlest thing that many people may take for granted, I, I notice these things, and it just really inspires me. Another example, I ran a half marathon not so long ago when I was in Japan. Very challenging. But anyway, that's another episode I'll talk about. But I was noticing I was running, and we're going up the hill, and there's this sort of like a cliff, and on the cliff is this untouched moss. There's always these mosses, it's so like just untouched, of course, not disturbed. So this beautiful green moss that had different shine and different reflection based on the light of the sunlight hitting it, right? Um, and I'm thinking in my mind, like, oh wow, this reminds me of the computer program that I created, my generative art of creating that sort of Bizen Machia, Bizenware sort of combo of this sort of like abstract work. But on top of when I was running, I also noticed that there are these pine needles. They're like, they're basically, they fell off the tree, of course, and then, they're all spread across the cliff. And these pine needles have varying shades of like orange to some of them are a little bit pale green, and they're just beautifully scattered across this hill cliff with, of course, the moss behind it. And I was like, wow, okay, actually, hmm, if I use the same code base, I could also create these, like simulate these pine needles as if it's part of the composition. So anyway, no, I don't want to go too off the beaten path of my conversations here, but these are the inspirations that I have when I'm there. Like I'm like, you just never know. Um, so nature, this architecture, this design, even retail experience is incredibly inspiring for me. Just the way they place their products and how they have this just the whole space. Have you ever been to Parco Shibuya? If you guys are in Tokyo or in Shibuya, you could go to Parco Department Store. Um, I'm not saying to buy anything there, but just notice the details. Just notice how they place products. Notice how they build the environment, visual communication. It's it's incredible. Also, oh yeah, if you're in Ginza, go to Ginza 6. Again, it's just another department store. Well, not really a department store, but it's like another commercial complex. Let's just say that. And just the detail, the use of color, how they, the branding is incredible. Even the olfactory, the smell you enter the building, it's does something. Okay, another location that was inspired by in Japan was in Tokyo was in Azabuda Hills. If you're in Tokyo, I recommend you to go check out Azabuda Hills. Again, another commercial complex slash residency slash hotel. But you would just notice and appreciate the design and thought process to create a space. Okay. It's incredibly refreshing. Let's just say that. So, yeah, Japan has, at least for me, okay, at least for me, the environment, its nature, Mount Fuji. Like literally yesterday, I did a 75-kilometer bike ride with a group of friends around four lakes at the foothills of Mount Fuji. I mean, that's just so surreal. Number three, so insights into B2B art collaborations. Well, it's almost literally what I talked about in number one. But like, I would just go on to say that to add to that is that um, exploring partnerships in Japan is really cool, and especially if you're both in the creative industries. Uh, I met, well, I continue like there's this one like you just never know what could happen. So nothing's confirmed yet. However, I have been building a great relationship with a leather company doing leather clothing, beautiful, made in Japan, all local leather goods, beautiful jackets. You guys see the jacket. They're called A Leather. Again, I mentioned before, I'll put a link into my show notes. Um, but the guy who's in charge of this whole thing, we nicknamed Pedro-san. He brilliant entrepreneur, brilliant person, and we align in so many similar, like our thought process, our philosophy, how we see life, how we engage in our day-to-day operations. um, we have such a great rapport and a great yeah, I said before, but like synergy. So I wouldn't be surprised that something could happen in between digital art and leather goods and fashion. Um, so like I said, this would be the second time that I've met him. Right, last time I met him was back in Japan when I was in November. Was it last year, November? Last October? Or was it February? I think it was last October, like last October 2023. But we've been keeping in touch online, but physically we have met this the second time. And again, and these are new waves being amplified, and at some point down the road in the future, it's going to hit some sort of critical mass and something will happen. As to what that will be, we don't know. But that is the beauty of the path of an entrepreneur and the path of what we do best, engage with the unknown, the uncertainty. And I absolutely love that. And I'm sure he does too. Um, because when you're engaged in something that is a question mark at sometimes those are where the adventures are. This is where the unknowns are. So number four, digital art meets Japanese cultural diplomacy. Indeed, indeed. So of course, like I'll say it outright. One of my main missions too for myself, for EEPMON, is to build closer ties with the Canadian Embassy. Of absolutely, the Canadian Embassy is right in Tokyo, right? I mean, like, why wouldn't I, as a creative entrepreneur, being on the Team Canada trade mission to Japan, that's minister led, and as I mentioned in my previous episodes, I'm increasingly engaged in more cultural diplomatic um, uh, I guess I'll say I keep on saying this word endeavors. It's such a useful word, but it's very generic, but it's very useful. But I'm getting more involved in the cultural diplomacy aspect of things through the power of art, through the power of STEAM. The acronym for STEAM is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Japan is very into the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. As we know, next year, 2025, will be Osaka 2025. And I do know that not just Canada, Canada's got to have a huge pavilion there, but there are other countries that are going to be engaged in this expo, right? My fellow artist, Norman Takeuchi, already has an exhibition happening right now at the Prince Takamoto Gallery in the embassy of the Embassy of Canada to Japan right now. So there's so many things happening, so many moving parts, so many things that are happening. So again, uh, I feel that the time is right based on my experience, based on my knowledge, um, and sort of just sort of the world that I'm moving in compels me and or intuitively tells me that yeah, this is the time to really start to look more seriously into soft power diplomacy. So, and then on that note, number five, I don't want to keep you too long, folks, but tips for creative entrepreneurs traveling for B2B engagements. Well, like I said, I think in earlier what I just talked about is that when you're traveling and building relationships, remember it's really about that. It's really building relationships. Don't have this expectation that oh, I'm going to like get a big client right away, unless you are like madly connected. Otherwise, like, if you're striking on your own, it's going to be tough. It's going to be fierce. You have to have you definitely need some street smart sense to really know how to navigate in this entrepreneurial, volatile, uncertain, unknown territory because that's what we do, right? We're there to discover new business opportunities, new creative opportunities, um, that are not that are sometimes uh, people know of, or sometimes they're completely new that is innovative. So it's up to us to really discover these connectivities. So one thing is important is to know what you're good at, know what you're passionate about, know what you like to engage in, and how can that be applied or be used to engage with new audiences, like, or perhaps it's like identify what you're really good at or what you're passionate. What makes you excited? What makes you get up and like, I'm going to do this thing? Okay, now what are your other interests, right? So very digital art and creating digital art is my I love that, right? It's just I love doing that, right? Uh, what are my second things that I enjoy doing? Well, sometimes I mean, I like fashion, right? Uh, I like, sportwear brands. I like playing some video games sometimes. Like maybe not as much now, but before I used to play a lot of video games, right? That's how I got into the whole digital art stuff. Well, where can my passion as a digital artist can apply that to the fashion world, to my level twos, fashion world, gaming, sportswear, health and fitness, right? Now, if you can, I know we only have two hands, but if you can find other like-minded people who are in those industries and collaborate in those industries, oh yeah, motion graphics too. I like motion graphics too. Um, you know, then then it's like a clear winner right there, right? Because you are doing what you love to do and you're engaging with an industry that you would also love to do. But through the power of collaboration, you get that opportunity to engage in it. So uh, traveling tips, of course. I mean, like that's general tips for creative entrepreneurs. But for traveling tips, is like when you are traveling and you're going to engage with like either another country, another place, it's like you're there with a fresh new slate. You're like new. You're like I'm fresh out of like out of the lot. I don't know the area. I have to learn and network. I need to meet people. You're like that energy of like getting back out there to just re-engage and meet new people. I think take advantage of that. Take hold of um, that spark. And I guarantee you, right? You'll be making those waves. You make those waves, and you'll find people, and you start to build your own group, your own community, based on your travels. So that's what I'm doing right now, right? I'm building my own community, my own connections based on who I've met, who I continue to build, um, and that's the name of the game, folks. Now, of course, not everything is always all rosy. Some projects, some, well, not projects, there's some individuals that we realize, well, it's not working out, time to close the chapter. But that being said, there's always going to be new chapters opening up all the time, and that's the beauty of what you do. You have to embrace that. You have to enjoy the fact that the volatility comes with the game that we are in. Well, those are my five tips, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe. I'm gonna get ready. I gotta start really like repack my stuff. I got a lot of things to reorganize my luggage because it's pretty much like gonna explode. Not literally, but just sort of like making sure that my that everything is in order. Because I fly out tomorrow. So on that note, thank you very much. Have a great evening. Have a great afternoon. Have a great morning wherever you are in the world. This is the channel Eeps episode 140. I got to get back into my talking. As you see, I'm like messing up sometimes because I have lacking the communication skills of doing these online channel Eves. Anyway, I think my next episode you'll see me back in my home base. So see you all soon. Bye bye.